Now part 23 is fitting the receiver switch if you're using a Tamiya ESC. I'm not, so and being truthful, if it's got the more modern hobby wing Tamiya connection, you couldn't use this anyway. So ignore that bit, and so all you do is fit the item with 4 10mm screws. Yeah, because that is one thing people are moaning about. They like that they come with a hobby wing ESC, but it doesn't have the Tamiya wire and switch on it, which people would prefer. And I totally agree, because it fits into a lot of the cars in the right place, and it's only the nice big Tamiya switch that fits okay, if that makes sense. So you can understand why people want it. But this is a simple little bulkhead. It goes in with ease. Don't go tighten these screws up, but don't go mad, because this is a softer plastic. Just go until they stop, and then no more. And this is part 23 done. Now part 24 is fitting the gearbox to the chassis. You've got these 2 C3 plates, then you hook the gearbox in. You've got 2 screws in and 4 from underneath, so I recommend getting these 2 screws in first. Again, using wax on all, because they're all going into hard. So here's those rear bits. They just sit on loose, and they just plop in one way round. The angle bit goes inwards, it seems to be. I don't know whether it's for extra strength, for bracing across where this is an open piece of plastic. And then in theory, gently go in with the gearbox. Now I'm not going to fully tighten these screws in, which go one each side, but if I can get it, I might take them in, because it's going into, those ones actually didn't require anything, but you can see where the 2 screws are. And then underneath we've got the 4 other ones. We don't want those 2 braces to move. So I'm going to put a finger under the back and hold it, and put one in top and then one diagonal, so they're just tagged into place. We know they're not going to move now. Take them both in. Sorry if you can't see it. Like I said, I'm working on like me LED fluorescent light, and the light is not good today in here. It's a shame, because we've had days where I could have had the door open, but it's raining and it's miserable outside. Right, that concludes part 24. Now part 25 we're bypassing, because of the damper set. It's a hop up, which is bag seat instead of, like I said, I don't show making shocks anymore. There's so many videos out there. The only stage I will show is the different mounting system again, as I won't be using the step screws. But it does say here what to build the option ones to, which is more detailed in this. So the next stage will be when I fit the shocks. Now first part of 27, I'm actually going to fit the front shocks first, and it shows them screwed through from behind. like so. So I'm just going to see how long these screws are. They practically go all the way through. So what I'm going to do is add a collar first. You know, these I just print them off on my 3D printer. They're only M3 2mm washers. They're slightly tight on fit, so what I do is I'll wind it in quick. And what I'm going to try and do is use the longer screw on the bottom, because they just show little step screws. Well, the advantage is machine screws, you can use them, and often they're a lot deeper, the holes, than you realise. See, they're going that far, so we can be a bit overzealous. There you go, the screw is not all the way through, but that is a good length. See, if the bottom one is too much, all I will do is add another collar just to shorten it a little bit. It shouldn't affect the suspension. There we go. So all we got to do is prep these screws. And like I said, this is where it could get a bit tricky, but we'll have the answer. Like I said, because I've not done this before on these ones, I don't know what the reaction will be like. You know, it's trial and error. But I do prefer the tubes with the ball section, because they pop in nice to the shock absorbers. The only thing is, on the front I probably can't use the bottom because of the way they go together, being truthful. So let's have a look at this. Yeah, it's going to go too deep. So what we'll do is get a couple of more spacers. And then add these. Thing is, you haven't always got enough of these in leftover bits of the shock absorbers, but they do have little spacers like these. but I don't muck around, I just make them now. Sorry, this is taking time. Again, being the wishbones are softer, no wax is required. There we go. And the way they go on, it faces, let's get this forwards, faces this way, the bracket, and they go in the outer holes. Can be fiddly to get them started. See, normally you're working with self-tapping step screws and they go in easy. But like I said, these won't back off. These won't back off like the self-tappers can. Yeah, the perfect distance. And then to mount that bracket we need 2 10s. Again, no lubrication. I wish I'd mount this before you mount the gearbox. I'll be truthful, there's not a lot of room for your hand. Perfect. And that's the rear suspension. I'm just going to prep the front. Now we're working on the front part of the suspension. 4 screws to hold in. We're using a pin at the bottom and a tube, but at the top I've fitted them the same way, but as the screws are a bit longer I've added a couple of nuts. I could have probably done that to the rear. So what we're going to do is, to fit these, it says outer, I'm going to put the tube in, or try to. You can see why the ball ones are better, and try and get them into the suspension. This might be the easier way of doing it, is push, I don't know if you can see this, is push the suspension bottom through, put in the collar. Like I said, these are really hard to deal with, and pull upwards until we get it in. There we go. This is tricky. It's a shame my ball collars weren't a little bit shorter, because it would have saved all this aggro. But I've flipped the chassis in a sec, hopefully. There we go. And show you. So if you look, you can see the brass collar, but put it from underneath was the easier way of doing it. Right, with it through the bottom, I'm putting the brass tube in and sliding it hopefully into place. We'll get the pin ready and see, and push it in. So I don't know how too long these are, these collars. If I might another day try and grind them down a bit so they fit. Really tighten the hole, but I'm not doing that today. And then the 4 screws just to mount the stay. Right, so that completes up to stage 27. Now, we're going to talk through the last bit. I'm not going to talk through fitting the electrics, it's just put in and tidy up, but that varies between what electrics you have. The wheels and tyres, they're going to something completely different, but that's in the next part of the project. So I'm not going to put on the last few bearings and the hexes. That is to come. And then we can add the battery holder. Just goes in and a pin goes through like so, and that's as far as I can go with the chassis at the moment because I'm waiting on parts. But that is the DT03 chassis built, and we'll go from there.